Hi guys, so I am going to show you how I edit in Photoshop my photographs and to prepare them for large printing. So this photo in particular, I am going to print and frame it in a 12 by 18 frame, so it is going to be on the larger side. As you can see, there's a lot of hair and a lot of dust and debris on the furniture from the dogs jumping on and off the couch. So I am going to go in there and I am going to clean it all up. So I've already started some. So this is what it looked like before. And I've already cleaned up a lot of the areas here. Right now I am focusing on the couch and the floor. And I am going to move on to the blanket afterwards. So I do like to zoom in pretty generously. That way my brush doesn't have to be as big. I'm just cleaning all the hair. So now that we cleaned all the hair off of the couch, I am gonna start to clean up the blanket. So whenever I'm retouching fabric, you just wanna be careful not to accidentally blur things out too much because again, we wanna keep everything looking very natural and clean. Anything that looks like abnormal to me, I'm gonna try and get rid of it, like some extra hair. I want everything to look as clean as possible because this photo is going to be hanging up super large in my client's living room. So it is important to zoom in generously when you're doing when I'm doing detail work such as this so that I can work with a smaller brush and I am more accurate with where I'm using my brush. So sometimes you have to add color back in if it's accidentally retouched out too much. So I'm gonna get my stamp tool and I just added some texture and color of the blanket back in. And again, looking at this image as a digital file, you're not going to see all of these little hairs and imperfections, but once it is blown up in a large portrait, your eye is immediately going to go to those areas because they stick out more in print. It's always good to zoom out and just see where you're at. Like I could see in this area, it's really fuzzy. Looks like there's some fuzz happening. So I'm gonna get my stamp tool and raise the opacity and flow on it. And I'm just kind of gonna go in with some darker blue to get rid of that like shaggy, fuzzy look that I'm getting. Okay, so now that we cleaned up the hair from the sofa and the blanket, I am going to start cleaning up the dust marks and the paw prints from the sofa. So I'm gonna go save my document right now so I can save all the work I just put into this image. And I'm going to use my retouching panel here on the side. I'm gonna open that up. I got this panel from Retouching Academy's website. It's a really great tool to use as a professional retoucher. I cannot recommend it enough. I'm going to go to the Dodge and Burn curves right here, and it's going to put the image in black and white for me. I usually like to make the black and white feature look a little bit more dramatic. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. That way I can see the lights and the darks a little bit better. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in on the area that I wanna take care of. Just adjust the lighting a little bit more. And then I'm going to basically shade in the areas that I want lighter and the areas that I want darker using my paintbrush. So right now I'm going to shade in the areas that I want darker, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to preserve the texture detail in the sofa. So if I were to just use my healing tool on all of this, on all of these footprints, then I would lose mostly all of the detail in the sofa. So by just dodging and burning, basically the tone of the image, I'm able to allow the image to look more realistic. Now, sometimes I'll take the visual aid off so it'll take it back into color, and sometimes it's just a little bit easier for me so I could see what it looks like in real time. It's definitely a tedious technique to use, but I find that it works really well on really anything, especially skin retouching, anything that has a texture to it that you want to preserve in your image. Of course, it didn't help much that I used a black sofa with a really dusty floor, so the dog's footprints just kind of got all over it. But that's the thing with photography, is you can try to control every detail, but you're not going to be able to control every single detail, which is why if you want to be a fine art photographer, you have to be equipped and ready to fix what was not fixed when you took the picture. So we're just gonna give you a quick little before and after. It's already made a really big difference in our image. And I also love this technique because it's very forgiving, and it's really not that much of a permanent technique. If you feel that you didn't do a good job, all you have to do is delete the masks that you had worked on, and you could try something else, or you could just simply start over, start new with a fresh layer. Okay, so I'm gonna do a before and after with the dodge and burn. So this is before, and then this is after. Before, after. So you can see it made a really, really, really big difference in our image. And before I go over that and smooth it all out, I'm just gonna look around at the image and just look for like little areas that could benefit from a dodge and burn technique. We haven't even begun retouching the dogs yet, so I'm excited to get to the dogs. But I am done with the dodge and burn technique, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a fresh new layer. I'm going to zoom back in, and I'm going to clean up the sofa a little bit more. in and replace that right there. So now I'm gonna take my stamp tool and I'm going to make sure that the settings are set on high noise and protected texture, as well as the hardness of the brush. I'm going to adjust that. So I am just going to smooth over a little bit over here and keep the opacity and flow pretty low. But just kind of smooth things out while also protecting the texture of the sofa. Okay, so now I am finally going to retouch the dogs. I'm primarily going to focus on their eyes, their mouth, and their snouts, and of course anything that I see on their bodies, maybe softening up their genital areas, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and save my document before I get started on this. So I am going to start at the toes just to see if I see anything out of the ordinary, like any kind of dirt, debris, little specks that just stick out at me. Like his toenail kind of looks a little gross, so I'm just gonna clean up his paw. Things like that. That just, we don't want that in our printed image. We want our printed image to just look good. We don't want it to look crusty. Okay, so now I'm finally making my way up to the face. So you can kind of see now, like in my process, that I usually save the most important part for the end. So obviously the dog's face is super important. The owner did tell me to leave any drool in the images because that's what they love about their dog. So really, I'm going to keep that little freckle on his nose, because that is like a symbol of who he is. This dog's name is Rory. But I'm just gonna like touch up the little things that are not significant to who he is. Now, I do like to get rid of like harsh highlights in anyone's mouth typically. But like I said, the owner asked me to preserve any drool, evidence of drool. Like, see like these harsh highlights inside the nose? Definitely gonna get rid of those because they just don't look good to me. It looks like harsh, like just harsh lighting or whatever it may be. It's just not my favorite look. So like, I don't mind a little bit of glare, but I definitely have a preference on what it's supposed to look like. And because these are so harsh, I do have to go in with the stamp tool. Brighten it up that way as well. It's one of my favorite things to do because it just really brings out the richness and color and detail in the image. Look at that difference. Now I do want to bring back a little bit of darkness in there. So I'm going to take my burn tool and just get it on his pupil. Just kind of darken up those pupils a little bit more again so they look more realistic. All right, so now we're gonna go to Cheddar, the second dog, and looks like we have a couple paws to clean up. Perfect. Okay, now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lasso selection tool, going to get this left area and kind of hover it over the dog. I'm going to hit select and mask, and I'm going to feather it like a crap ton, like a lot. I'm going to feather it a lot. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit Command C. And then Command V, copy paste, and then I'm gonna transform it, put it right in its correct spot. Then I'm gonna hit filter, camera raw filter. And I'm going to raise the exposure a little bit because it just needs it. Just the way the light fell, it's just a little bit more shadowy and dark in that area on the right hand side of Cheddar. So I'm gonna hit the shadows too. That already looks so much better. Maybe play with the highlights just a little bit, like +5, and then I'm gonna hit OK, and that literally looks amazing. I love that. I think it looks so good. So here's the before, and then here's the after. I just think it looks really stunning. I'm tempted to raise the exposure even more. Just don't know if it's necessary. I might just be able to go in with my dodge tool. I always like to zoom out of images. And get that bigger picture. But I am gonna go back into camera raw. And I think I'm gonna pull up the shadows just a little bit more, maybe like +8. And then maybe just the whites like +5. You don't wanna overdo it because just don't. And +4 for the highlights, press OK. And that looks really great. I'm gonna make that a part of my layer. So now we're at layer 8. I'm gonna get my dodge tool and I'm gonna set it to shadows to start. And I'm just gonna kind of hit this area again, just very lightly. I don't wanna overdo it. It's like, we don't want to completely balance images because the whole point of photography is for there to be lights, darks, shadows, and highlights. I am going to switch the dodge tool to midtones and just hit it a little bit on the wall here. And I'm using a really light touch with my retouching pen. I think that looks really good. Really, really good. I love it. I do feel like Cheddar's eyes, like he has like darker circles around his eyes, so I am gonna just like brighten him up a little bit. Not too much though. Then I could see like the light is a little hot on his forehead, so I'm just gonna dodge that a little bit with the midtones. Like he looks so good. Dodge, and then I'm gonna dodge the midtones on his tongue, so it like pops a little bit more. Same with Rory over there. So I just realized though I don't want to bring too much attention to Rory's like little bumps on his face, but that's just like a part of who he is. So I think what I'm gonna do with this is I'm just gonna like bring the bumps in a little bit. So I'm gonna hit Shift Control X and I'm gonna bring it into the liquefy tool, and I think I'm just gonna liquefy like Rory's little bumps a little bit, just so that there's like not too much attention being brought to them, or not as much attention, because every dog has this on their face, and it's like the little pockets that like of skin that like hold their whiskers. And you know, and sometimes they look like pimples or something, so depending on the lighting, you just don't really want to draw too much attention to that. I think that's good enough. We're gonna hit OK. Good. Okay. And again, I just want to like brighten up Cheddar's eyes because they're just, he literally has dark circles around his eyes. So I'm gonna save this image. I think it looks really stunning. I'm pretty much done retouching it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Lightroom and play with some of the general lighting on it, and then bring it back into Photoshop just for some little touch-ups before print. So I'm really happy with this result. I'm going to show you guys the before and the after. Okay, so this is the before. You can see that the lighting isn't really balanced. There's a bunch of spots all over the blanket. You can see this wall right here, this cutout wall is totally distorted and curved to the right. And we're gonna go to the after. So I gave it more headroom so that when I print it, the dog has more headroom above his head. Their eyes are brightened up. This cutout wall is completely straightened. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a few tips and tricks from this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or message me directly. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you like this content and you'd like to see me post more of this content. I'm here to post all education videos for photographers, including lighting, retouching, and behind the scenes. Give us a follow on our Instagram at DiGiordanoPhoto and Pinterest as well at DiGiordanoPhoto. You can go to www.digiordanophoto.com to see all of our updated work that we post each month. Thanks, guys.